Hello, and welcome back to yet another episode of Innocents Who Have Been Wrongfully Executed and the stories of miscarriages of justice. This is the Texas series. In the heart of Texas, amidst the sprawling city of Waco, a shadow loomed over the courthouse, casting doubt on the fairness of justice and the weight of truth. David Wayne Spence, a roofer with a substance abuse history, found himself at the mercy of the law's cruel machinations. He was accused of the most heinous crime, brutal rape and murder of two 17-year-old girls and the killing of an 18-year-old boy in Waco. His trials were not singular, but twofold, each delivering the same damning verdict, death. Yet, as the gavel fell, Spence's cries of innocence rang louder than the judge's decree. On that fateful April day in 1997, as the lethal cocktail coursed through his veins, Spence, strapped to the gurney, turned to the grieving families of his purported victims. His final words were,
"First of all, I want you to understand I speak the truth when I say I didn't kill anyone. Honestly, I have not killed anyone. I wish you could get the rage from your hearts and you could see the truth and get rid of the hatred."
But his words fell on hearts hardened by grief and vengeance, unable to heed the plea of a condemned man, a martyr to a system that failed to see beyond the facade of guilt. So, what went wrong? The prosecution's case against Spence rested heavily on dubious bite mark analysis and testimony from jailhouse snitches, both known for their unreliability. Spence was already serving a 90-year sentence for aggravated sexual abuse of an 18-year-old man when he was indicted for the Waco killings. A blind panel study organized by Spence's post-conviction lawyers refuted the validity of the bite mark evidence used against him. The original police homicide investigator, Ramon Salinas, admitted during the appeals process that he harbored serious doubts about Spence's guilt. In a sworn deposition to Spence's lawyers in 1993, Marvin Horton, a former Waco police lieutenant involved in the case, stated unequivocally,
"I do not think David Spence committed this offense."
Two of the 6 jailhouse witnesses who testified at trial later recanted their testimonies, revealing that they had been offered incentives such as cigarettes, television privileges, alcohol, and even conjugal visits with girlfriend in exchange for accusing Spence. Spence's defense team failed to adequately challenge the prosecution's case or present compelling evidence in his favor, which contributed to Spence's wrongful conviction and subsequent execution. Waco attorney Russell D. Hunt Sr. was convinced of Spence's innocence. Despite mounting evidence pointing to Spence's innocence, Governor Bush's criminal justice advisor, Mr. Sutton, defended the verdict, insisting on its fairness. With Governor Bush's eyes set on the presidency, the spotlight intensified on Texas's death penalty system. Raul Schoeneman, one of Mr. Spence's post-conviction lawyers, ruefully noted that Spence's case received more attention later than during the efforts to save his life, amidst Governor Bush's presidential bid and increased scrutiny on the Texas death penalty system.
believe that David Spence was an innocent person who was murdered at the hands of the state.
Odell Barnes Jr.'s story is a tragic tale of a flawed justice system and the devastating consequences of a botched trial. It all began with the brutal murder of Helen Bass, a nurse and a close friend of Barnes's mother. On November 30th, 1989, Bass was found dead in her home, her body battered and lifeless. Barnes, a crack addict at the time, was swiftly arrested and charged with murder. The trial that followed was plagued with incompetence and negligence from the outset. Barnes was assigned 2 court-appointed lawyers, neither of whom had significant experience in capital murder cases. These lawyers failed to conduct a thorough investigation or effectively challenge the prosecution's evidence. Crucially, they neglected to hire scientific experts to examine forensic evidence or interview key witnesses who could have supported Barnes's innocence. The prosecution's case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence, including semen matching Barnes's found at the crime scene and fingerprint allegedly belonging to Barnes on a lamp believed to have been used as a murder weapon. However, Barnes maintained his innocence throughout the trial, insisting that he had not raped or murdered Bass. The primary eyewitness initially stated that the man they saw near the crime scene was not Barnes, but later testified otherwise at trial. Additionally, independent witnesses implicated the 2 main prosecution witnesses in the crime. One of the state's witnesses in the case allegedly struck a deal with the district attorney, exchanging testimony for leniency on pending drug charges. However, this crucial information was not disclosed to Barnes's original trial lawyers. Despite the deficiencies in the prosecution's case and the lack of compelling evidence against Barnes, he was convicted and sentenced to death. The jury's decision was based largely on the prosecution's narrative, which painted Barnes as the sole perpetrator of the crime. After being convicted, Barnes faced the daunting task of proving both his innocence and constitutional errors in his case. This burden is particularly challenging for death row inmates, as the legal system places significant obstacles in the way of introducing new evidence. As Barnes's case progressed through the appeals process, new attorneys took up his cause, recognizing the miscarriage of justice that had occurred. Requests for analysis of the crime scene, fingerprint identification, DNA testing, and additional time for investigation were all denied, limiting Barnes's defense team's ability to present exculpatory evidence. Despite this, they independently funded investigations that uncovered substantial evidence casting doubt on Barnes's guilt. They argued that Barnes had a consensual sexual relationship with the victim, which could explain the presence of Barnes's semen at the crime scene. Barnes was also a frequent visitor at Ms. Bass's house, which proves why his fingerprints were found on the lamp. Most damningly, they found that the Wichita Falls police mishandled the crime scene investigation. This included failing to preserve a shoe print and neglecting to test blood found smeared throughout the house, highlighting serious deficiencies in the handling of crucial evidence. Independent investigations uncovered new witnesses whose testimony contradicted that presented by the state at trial, further undermining the credibility of the prosecution's case. Forensic analysis by Kevin Ballard, an expert consultant to the FBI, revealed that a spot of blood on Barnes's overalls, part of the evidence used by the prosecutor to secure his conviction, contained unusually high levels of citric acid, suggesting the evidence was either planted or accidentally dropped on Barnes's overalls. Despite the presentation of compelling new evidence and challenges to the integrity of the original trial, both state and federal courts refused to allow Barnes's lawyers to present their case. The Supreme Court's refusal to intervene effectively closed the door on Barnes's last chance for justice. On March 1, 2000, Odell Barnes Jr. was executed by lethal injection, an innocent man condemned to die by a system that had failed him at every turn. His story serves as a stark reminder of the grave injustices that can occur when the pursuit of justice is marred by incompetence, negligence, and systemic flaws. Barnes's execution received minimal attention in Texas, but garnered significant interest in France due to his correspondence with death penalty opponents there, who contributed funds to his defense. French lawmakers, including Jack Lang, urged Bush to halt the execution, with Lang criticizing Bush's suitability for the U.S. presidency following Barnes's execution. French television crews were present in Huntsville to cover the event.